Holly. How are you? Let me tell you, I am so happy to get you on here. I think we had to reschedule a few times.
A couple times, yeah. Today's busy
Yeah.
world.
I want everybody to know I have Holly McNeill on my show today, and welcome to another great episode of Unpack Your Life. And Holly, comes to us by way of mindfulness. And I think your title, the Mindfulness Architect, is amazing because in your realm, you build. That's what you do. You create and you build. But in this new Holly McNeill, you
Hmm.
dismantle. You dismantle people's negative thoughts, which I
That's
think
right.
is fantastic, and you help them to rebuild with positivity through meditation. So tell everybody, how did you get on that launch pad?
Thank you, Jane. It's amazing how far you can go and be successful in this world without having it inside, right? My father was a home builder, and so one day we're building a frame for a picture I had painted, and he said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I knew that I loved art and I loved math, and architecture was one of the professions you can combine that in. And in that moment, I decided to be an architect.
Wow.
And that was what was feeding me. Turns out that was feeding what was feeding my low self-worth, my unlovability from childhood trauma. But I pushed it and I pushed it. And by age 27, I was put in charge of the largest historic preservation project in
Mm.
my home state of South Dakota. And I had 10 to 15 men standing around me, all listening to what I had to say. I was large and in charge. I was, had it all, married, kids, everything you're supposed to want, right?
Everything society tells you.
Everything, the prescription, right?
Oh, I love that.
I had filled that prescription up, but on the inside, it was total imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Still, the journey as an architect, though, it took me from my hometown. I hit a low point then. They call it the quarter life crisis. Like, how did I get here? Um, that 75% of people hit in their late 20s and early 30s because even though I had everything you were supposed to want, I was full of anxiety, doubt, and I hit this really low point. And I made this vow to God, life, Buddha, the universe, anyone out there listening, help me and I will
Oh,
change. Give me another chance and I'll do better.
and you were successful at the time.
I was. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
But
interesting.
yeah, it's people the idea that we have of success is all on the outside and without the inside, it is meaningless. I know many successful people who are unhappy, who are, you see people, you see celebrities who commit suicide or because
Absolutely.
yeah. So from this low point, I did get that second chance. I moved to Minneapolis from Rapid City, South Dakota, to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I worked on my first hospital project there. Doing hospitals and architecture is kind of the big wig job, I guess.
Hey.
And it was 2007, and the project manager had just had to take a leave, and they said, "Well, who can manage?" And they said, "Well, Holly can manage." I said, "I don't know anything about healthcare." They just said, "Just manage it, and I will help you." Right? It turned out to be 5 years, $250 million project, 10-story hospital in St. Cloud, Minnesota. But I still wanted more. I practiced Zen Buddhism there. I did the mindfulness-based stress reduction course there. But when I made that vow, things started showing up. When I had a question, the next thing would be the answer. Jane, it was amazing. And if I would have written down every little thing that happened to me, I'd have a book, 300 pages long. But so
Ah,
I really wanted more. I moved to the East Coast, still growing my career. I worked in a hospital for a while. I did a large ambulatory hospital addition in Westchester, New York, having a team in New York City. There, I practiced on my personal side. I practiced Buddhism for 5 years. At this point, I was a childless mother. Right, part of when I hit that low point, I left a very manipulative and controlling marriage mutually, right?
okay.
And I was alienated as a child. And for 8 years in Minnesota and South Dakota, I fought not being alienated from my children, because that was where all that devastation came in, that childhood trauma, that your father doesn't love us
Chaos, I'm
anymore.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. So I fought that for my kids, and eventually I was alienated for a while. And so I made a hard choice. If I couldn't be there, I was a childless mother in Minnesota for a year and a half. And I thought, if I can't be there to raise my kids, I will live by example. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I moved to Minneapolis, to the greater New York City area. I practiced Buddhism for 5 years, worked
What
on
was
those.
that like for you?
Things like I said, things show up. I was working in Stamford, Connecticut, on the hospital in Westchester, and I just Googled meditation in in Stanford, and there's a class one mile away. This is just how it works, right? And I go to the class, and it's great. It's on compassion, it's on love, it's in the New Kadampa tradition, it's a Buddhist tradition. And after the second class, I hear a student asking the teacher, "Is there a more in-depth class?" And
Oh,
she goes,
okay.
"Yeah." And she goes, "We just finished a study of 5 years on a book called The Joyful Path, right? And we're starting a new one in 2 weeks on a book called the New Heart of Wisdom. And it's all about emptiness, the highest teaching in Buddhism. It's all about that space and clarity that you find when you get out of the chaos of your mind." And I had just been starting to see that. And there's a 2-year book study right there.
And
Amazing.
that's was that your beacon? Was that your beacon of
Yeah,
light?
yeah, yes. It was just right there for me. Here's like, okay, life's like, okay, here it is. Here's and two, and
Interesting.
and the Sangha was amazing. The Sangha is the Buddhist community, and I understood everything, not everything, right? But I had a lot of insights. And at that time, I had an opportunity to move from the greater New York City area to San Francisco for my work to work for Stanford on a cancer hospital. And I knew nobody. I'm 49 years old. I know nobody. I I I have just was just breaking up with someone, so I packed up everything I had, left everyone I knew. And the
Mhm.
Sangha said, "We have a Dharma house in San Francisco for you to
Let
stay."
me ask you this. Let's digress a little bit here, Holly. Were you ever interested in Buddhism and the religion itself, or the findings or the readings? What
When I
drew you to that?
when I
I mean, I
started
know
in
you
that yeah,
this, but what drew you to Buddhism?
when I was at that low point, I had no idea what I was interested in. I was so self-absorbed, right? Me. I need to.
Oh God, I
I'm so
know.
busy creating this world. I had no idea, but I made that vow for better. And life, that one consciousness that we all are, that connectivity.
Hmm.
When you believe something, you don't have to know how to get there. You just have to believe that you can and make that intention and be aware and awake for what shows up. So
Absolutely.
I would always, I was across the state on work, and I walked into a Barnes and Noble, and there's a book on the counter that says, it's called Stand Up for Your Life by Cheryl Richardson. And I pick
Yes.
it up and I open it, and in it says, be careful what you ask for, right? Because the universe will respond. It will send you the right
100%.
people, events, and situations to help you along your way. And that's exactly, it's amazing. It's open to everyone if you really believe. It's an amazing journey. And so Buddhism started to come into it in some of the books I was reading. I read Start Where You Are by Pema Chodron. And, I read Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay. And so they always spoke of it, right?
Mhm,
So it was
mhm.
never my intention to be a Buddhist. I was more spiritual. I grew up Lutheran, and I was like head of this vacation Bible school in the summers, just doing what you're supposed to do. Have my two kids, my dog and my cat, and
Get
everything.
it. Mhm.
But then for a while, I wasn't planning on it, but then it was there. It showed up for me. So, so
And now that at that point in your life when it showed up for you, how did you unravel everything with your mother? You said you had to unravel that on your own. You had to confront that. And
yeah,
that's a huge point of dismantling, so to speak. I
yeah,
mean, you're
yeah. That
a mindfulness architect. Like I said in the beginning, you're accustomed to building.
Right.
At this point in your life, you're dismantling everything that you've been taught and the behaviors that you put out there. You want to find out why, because there is a pattern. We all have a pattern.
There is. There is.
So
There
let's
is.
talk about that a little bit in unpacking your life, because that's a big part of that.
Yeah, so as an architect, you're right. I take all the pieces and parts, the thousands, millions of pieces, and hundreds of systems and hundreds of consultants and dozens of in-house staff, and create a set of documents that people can build complex structures from. So in this new practice of the mindfulness architect, I take all of these pointers that I've come across, neuroscience, psychology, Buddhism, and spirituality, because they all point back to this truth of unraveling, of unpacking. So when we're young and trauma happens to us, our prefrontal cortex isn't grown yet. So there's only our limbic system, our emotions. So if something goes wrong and there's not a stable parent to tell you that, help you work through that pain, you take that on as trauma, right? You take that on as trauma. It's my fault. Dad left. There's something wrong with me. I'm unlovable. I made the mistake of trying to replace that love with my stepfather, who was abusive. And so then I was disgusting and unworthy. And that's what you start to create in your subconscious mind. When you're not paying attention, you're building on that over and over and over again. And so what I had to unpack was this huge neural net, nerve cells that fire together, wire together, right? And so I had to all these habits and patterns and beliefs. First I
Mhm.
had to start to pay attention to them. To observe them, right? You can't, if you're on autopilot, you can't unpack anything. I
Absolutely.
um I have a set of practices per love, and it's pledged to make the habit of watching your mind.
And I
And
love the pay attention, because
yeah,
that's where it starts.
that's
If you,
exactly.
yeah, I believe that 100%. And when I saw pay attention, the first thing I thought is, yeah, of course you got to pay attention. Because if
Yeah,
you don't pay attention to your thoughts, and those two people that are on either shoulder, and it's
right.
always in your head, and it doesn't matter how confident you are. When you're
Does not.
about to embark on anything in your life, there is definitely a fear,
Yeah.
there's an insecurity that comes about, and we have to call on those strengths of what we know that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we're still afraid of that. A lot of people are afraid of success, because it looks different to everyone. So when you're in your brain, in your mind, and all of those things do come about, the behaviors that you were taught when you're young, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what affects the outcome.
Yes. Yeah. When I was even at my height, and I'm managing, it was in Cairo, Egypt, sitting
Mhm.
around and in this big, huge conference room. I'm like the only woman there, and there's like 25 men, and they're all talking, and I start talking, and everyone stops. The guy's like, "Okay, everyone stop. I want to know who everyone is." As soon as I started talking, they wanted to know who I was, right?
Wow.
Right. But even
Put
in all
the
of
little
that,
lady in her place.
yeah, exactly. I said, I am the project manager of this, And once I told them who I was, it was okay. But if I was some note taker or some secretary or whatever the heck they expected me to be, you know,
Be
um,
quiet.
exactly, exactly. But even
Yeah,
in that success, you're absolutely right. If you're not paying attention to those patterns, you build them up over time, year after year. All of those insecurities were building stronger and stronger and stronger. So,
100%.
what's
No,
that?
I agree with you. You know,
Yeah.
is let me ask you this, as a woman in business, we all have to navigate through the weeds of being around men
Hmm.
in these boardrooms. I've been
Hmm.
in the same position where I spoke up when I was in entertainment management. We were having a board meeting about bringing a band back together, a very famous band, and I was the only female.
Uh-huh.
And everyone was talking. It was like they were talking across me and around me, and I was the one who had the talent. And it didn't matter because the
Yeah.
record label was there, the agents were there. I was the personal manager, which they didn't take too well to, because I was the new person and I hadn't been in the business long. And trust me, I was scared. I was sitting there Scared to death because that was my first encounter with these people, the
Mm-hmm.
record label, the big agency, I mean, big names. And
Yeah.
I sat there but I was the one with the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
So I knew I had the strength and I knew exactly what I was talking about. So
That's
when I
right.
spoke up, same thing happened. Everyone got quiet because
Uh-huh.
I asked the question, are you here in New York City 24 hours a day? Are you here in New York City 24 hours a day? I am here. So I know what goes on.
Right. Right.
So once you speak up, everyone stops. And then of course, if you're firm, if you're strong, you're the bitch in the crowd now. You become the boss bitch. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
If
You
we
can't
have to
win.
be
Right.
that, listen, Holly, if we have to be that, we have to be that at that point to make our voices heard.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. So, when we're in that position, that's when it's time for us to really unpack.
Yeah, and even before that, it's like I had if you can have all that success really with all that and with the anxiety and whatever that I had, imagine the power you have, right?
Right.
Without that. So just like I said, paying attention at first and then catching it when it comes up and not believing it. We don't question any of the
Right.
things that come up in our head. Of course, I'm unlovable and unworthy and a piece of garbage and whatever. Even though I was, I made these two intentions in my early 40s. One was to retire from architecture at 50, and the second was to have the time and space to write and teach about what I've learned. And I was reading some of my work, and even then, a woman's like, she had to remind me, don't forget who you were and what you did as an architect. Right? The
Absolutely.
mindfulness architect didn't come along until later because I wasn't even giving myself credit for what I had done. So in unpacking those beliefs that you're not worthy and that nobody loves you and nobody wants to hear what you have to say, then you have the space to look back and say, yes, look at all that you've done. Look at
Absolutely.
the capacity that you have, and it
Mhm.
empowers you. Yeah,
Sometimes I think we look for other people to validate that for us,
of course.
and we need to really validate it ourselves because a friend of mine said the same thing to me. You are so hard on yourself, Jane,
That's
but
right.
you don't hear what people are saying about you.
Right.
And what we do is not for recognition, it's more of who we are authentically. And we
Hmm.
want to give that to the world, but we just have to find that voice, I think. And finding that voice is not easy. We go through trauma, we go through chaos, and unpacking your life for me, I think if I had unpacked along the way as opposed to letting it get me here and then
Right.
blowing up and imploding, as you said, because the
Right.
same thing happened to me. I imploded. I forgot who I was
Hmm.
and where I came from and what I did along the way. And I just started thinking, oh no, why are all my colleagues doing this and that? And I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And I was stuck, but I was stuck in my own mind and my own
That's
world.
right. That's right. And
I
that's my goal is to teach people this sooner
100%.
so that we don't, it's like, just if you're feeling anxious or worried or you're having these, if you're hard on yourself, these are all bullshit stories, right?
Oh God.
Right. And you can, but we believe them because we haven't challenged them. So you can challenge them and you can, and if you just let them be and don't fight them or resist them like a wave in the ocean, they will fade and leave space, right? So yes, the earlier the better. The earlier you can start to be taught these things about how your mind works, how it's habitual, how it doesn't
Mhm.
discriminate between good and bad conditioning, how it just doesn't
Absolutely.
ask any questions, that you have to ask the questions, the less concretized your mind is, right? And I was talking to a woman yesterday. She's 33 years old, and she has been practicing and looking at this stuff and paying attention. And she goes, "Wow, way back in my 20s, I was blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh my God, girl!" like,
Fearless I was.
yeah, 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 yeah. You have it. So you're so far ahead of a lot of people. So it brings me joy when I see younger people unpacking, because it's really, when we're born, we have 360-degree personalities. We are literally balls of light, and then all this conditioning comes in, and we lose that.
Yes.
right? Right. And so it's a matter of finding that again. You're not broken. There's nothing missing. It's just covered up. So,
Yeah. And it gets covered up by the stuff, the shit
yes.
that they
Mm-hmm.
put out there for us to follow, and I always say we're victims of our own society. First of all, we're Americans. Second of all, we're capitalists, and that's what we know how to do.
Exactly.
So we don't know how to navigate through this world but in that form, because that's what we've been taught, unless we, like you say, unravel these things and
That's right.
also deal with the chaos in our mind and the
That's right.
trauma from our youth,
That's
because
right.
all of that is a culmination of who you become in the future. So if
You
you don't unravel it, you're screwed,
you
you
are
know.
you are exactly right. There's only one journey that you really need to take, and that is the chaos out of the chaos of your mind
Mhm.
into the clarity of your heart. And from there everything else will flow, right? If you're making decisions and choices from that chaos, it's not authentic. It's only reinforcing those habits.
Absolutely.
So you're right. It's the human journey, right? All of this that we learn, the capitalism, the success, of course we can do these things
Mhm.
along the way, and they're important in making a living and finding relationships, but this is a human journey. We're here for what, 80 years, if we're lucky, some more, a lot of people a lot less. But you don't want to live it in this suffering, and you don't have to. There's so much calm and clarity and peace,
Mhm.
outside the chaos.
And I think this is a great time, the time we're living in now. We have to protect those boundaries and peace like nobody else,
Oh my
like
gosh,
nothing else in our lives,
this is
because
like
the
a
way
wake up call.
our world is crazy.
This is like this huge wake up call. Societies come and go, and the ground beneath our feet, that stability of who we are in this country, has been shaken. And
Shaken to
there's
the
all
core.
Yes, and there's all this divisiveness. And so now is the time more than ever, because if we change our inside worlds, our outside worlds will change, and we can find that healing and connectiveness inside, along with our true nature and our peace. And so I think it's a big wake up call myself. Getting on my soapbox and
No, no,
telling
no. Your soapbox is great because I'm a part of that box. Trust me.
excellent, excellent. Get on with me.
You know, I think my biggest thing with understanding what it means to unpack is people are not empathetic anymore. People are just immune to whatever's happening. We get it, we get the information so quickly today that we don't
Mhm.
have time to like take it apart, disseminate it, and understand it. We just kind of go for it. Boom, what's the next thing? It's all shock value, which is just interesting to me right now. With that being said, let me ask you something. Do you think there's a healthy balance in any of this, when it comes to a demanding career in our personal relationships? I think that's all blown to smithereens now. I don't, people say there is a balance, and I've talked to several people on the show, and they tell me there's a balance, but I just don't think there's a balance. I think there's an inner peace.
There is. We all have so much energy in this conscious awareness, and we use when we're not paying attention. We use a lot of that energy to appease our patterns. To make things okay, to get this job. Even pushing my practices forward for a long time was ego driven, right? That need, that wanting, that takes all your energy. But when you let that go, when you trust in your intuition and your true nature, there's that peace. You're not using that energy. Life starts to flow, right? And the
Yes.
success will come, and it will be easier than it was before. It's the only struggle is your own resistance to what is. So when you're open and allowing that and not using your energy, there is a balance. There is a balance. But this life is a journey, and it's not about getting to somewhere,
Mhm.
right? Even if you're as successful as you want to be, it's about evolving and being open and discovering and enjoying this blessed, amazing human journey that we're on. And being grateful for how far you've gotten, and for even being on this journey.
Even still being on this planet. with all the,
Yeah. With global
wow.
warming, and there's fear, and people aren't knowing what's going to happen next. But just finding that peace, and our definition of success is very, like you said, capital and capitalism, and entrepreneurship, and being on the top, being in that C-suite. But a lot of those pushes you will find are coming from that wanting and that ego to satisfy, you needing that external validation. So when you don't need that as much anymore, the whole world opens up. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful journey. I was in it, right? I was in one of the largest architecture firms in the United States. I was set to be the managing principal in the San Francisco office. I've worked nationally, internationally, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And I'm happier now than I've ever been, you know.
It's a funny thing when you say that. I have a friend. It was a friend of my husband and I at that time, and unfortunately, he got incarcerated.
Ah,
And he said to me one day, he said, "Jane, it was the most peaceful time of my life." He said, "I didn't have." I think he was only incarcerated maybe 5 years. I don't. I
mm-hmm.
couldn't imagine 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And
right.
and he said to me, he said, "I didn't have to worry
That's
about
right.
anything."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I was so at peace." And he said, "I was fearing coming back out to the
Right.
chaos." And I thought, wow,
Yeah.
I never heard it put that way.
I can totally see that, because when you're incarcerated, I imagine, right, you have no choice but to just be,
And
right?
sit still.
And sit still, right? If we
Mhm.
In Zen Buddhism, the whole definition of Zen Buddhism is to stop thinking. It's like, wait, what? It's like, just stop thinking, just be, just accept everything as it is. And I imagine that this person had to do that. And there's a great peace there. The trick, of course, is to do that in your daily life, and to be able to
Without
walk the
being
walk.
incarcerated.
Yeah, yeah, without being
Yeah.
incarcerated, although for those that are, it could be an opportunity to practice, but just to be still and to be non-resistant to what's happening, and be open to what comes up, and you will find your way, right? The way is not in the head. The only thing you're doing in your head is appeasing that wanting, which will never be satisfied. If you think, if I only get this job, once I have $1 million in my bank account,
Absolutely.
if I'm, then I'll be okay. That is not what happens. Your brain's like,
No,
okay, we've done that. Let's keep the program going. Want, want, want. It
it's
will
more and
never,
more.
more and
Exactly.
more and more. Never. You will never get there from there.
It's unfortunate, that we measure, our people value, we measure it through things like
Yeah,
how much, the man who or the woman who, has the most toys at the end wins. Well,
exactly.
you don't
No.
want the toys. When you get them, after a while, the desires of
Yeah.
all of that shiny stuff, you don't even want it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a quick rush you get at the beginning, but that fades,
Absolutely.
right? And then there's more wanting, right? And you can't take any of that with you, in case
No.
anybody was wondering.
Yeah.
There's no bank accounts wherever it is we're going after this journey. So
None
it's a
of those people
treadmill.
are following you when you're driving down the road in that hearse. You can't
Yeah.
take any of it with
That's
you,
right. That's
you know.
right. That's right. You can't take any of it with you. And so it's the experience of being aware. It's like we've been kidnapped by our obsessive,
Oh,
compulsive overthinking. We are this beautiful awareness. We are aware. We're human beings, but we've been kidnapped by the movement of thought, by who we think we are, our whole
but
personality
who
and
we think we
identity.
should be.
Right, exactly. That's right. And so it's unraveling all of that, unpacking that, and you find, then let that light shine through all that. That's like you get a little glimpse at first through all those thoughts, emotions, and feelings of that clarity and peace. And from there, your wisdom takes over. And that success you want, if you really want it, you'll find it through that peace and clarity.
And it
Not to
looks different
say,
to everybody.
what's that?
I said, and success looks different to everybody.
It does. It does. And it will look different to you once you let go of that wanting, right?
It looks
People,
different to me now from when I first started in this business and in this journey. I mean,
mhm.
when I got to where I thought everything was, wow, I did it.
You did
Well,
it. Yeah.
No, I didn't do it
Right.
because I wasn't happy and I
Yep.
couldn't figure it out. And I remember saying to myself, "Oh my God, I don't reckon." I remember looking at a picture that I kept on my dressing table of when I
Yeah.
was in college, and it was one of the first days I arrived there, and I was smiling, and I kept saying, I would look at the picture and look at myself in the mirror, and I would, "Who? I don't know you. I want to see you." And I'll never forget the moment I found that face again in the mirror. And I said, "Oh my God, I found myself. I missed you." I remember
Yeah.
screaming in my house, "I've missed you." Okay, so we're back. So, how do we take this journey to the next step, Jane, without tearing down the house? I mean,
Yeah.
because trust me, I was tearing down the house. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
getting rid of everything. I hadn't unpacked the 16 years that I was where I was, you know,
Right.
when I moved and I was where everybody thought, I remember people saying, "I can't believe you're giving up all of this." I said, "I'm not giving up anything. I'm not
Right.
giving up anything. All of this really wasn't mine to keep because I didn't want it. I
Right. It wasn't
thought I
making you
wanted it.
happy. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't make me happy. Where's my smile? I am definitely an imposter. Where's my authenticity? What happened to that happy person?
Right.
She's
Well,
gone. I need to find her. And if I have to implode, blow up the house, I
yeah.
am, because guess what? My happiness means everything to me.
Well,
And
good for you, Jane. And you're right. It's we hold on so tightly to this identity, to who we are. But guess
oh,
what? It's very transitory, right? The real you, the authentic you, is still going to be there, even if and after you implode. And so, kudos for you for stepping forward and giving yourself as an example of everything that we do according to society's rules and its prescriptions to be happy, and we can achieve that. We're smart, confident
absolutely.
people, but it doesn't get you there, right?
No, no.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
help either.
There is a balance. There's definitely a balance. You can do both things if you believe you can, but you will find when you start to open up, when you start to find that clarity and peace, yes, your work is important, but there's more, right? There's more to life. There's so much more.
And so much more to you as a
Yes,
person,
that's right.
and peeling it back. And even now, I'm closer to my mother, I'm closer to my siblings. Um,
Nice.
I'm spending a lot of time where I feel as though I belong. Still trying to clean up the unpacking,
Hmm.
but that's okay too, because
Yeah, of
guess what?
course. It's a journey.
I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
happy. And that's what's important. I realize that I can't make anybody happy unless I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I started
Right.
off late in life, as far as, doing the marriage thing
Yeah.
and understanding, what it means to not have kids and keep growing. And
Right.
I
Well, the
figured that
best,
out too,
yeah, the best thing you can do for this world, especially now in this time of divisiveness and global warming, is to find that interconnection. You'll
hmm
be amazed how much you can do. And if enough of us do it, connect inside to who we are and to that clarity that we're all a part of, right? We can change things. We can heal things, this divide. But if we're trying to fix it out there with anger and hate
Oh,
and trying to
100.
get your way, we could collapse it, right? just like just like when you back up far enough from all of that entanglement, when you unpack it enough, even your self concepts start to collapse, of who you thought you were, the personality you thought you were,
That
that
imposter.
the imposter, right? And so
Absolutely.
if enough of us start to do that, if and we can collapse some of that division, some of that, those stories of differences between race and politics, and those are all patterns
And
and habits in
yes,
our mind, right? We're all human. We're on this amazing human journey together, and if enough of us go inside and connect with that, you know, I just love to see that happen. Right? It would be amazing what you'd see happen in this world.
that imposter syndrome is strong
It is.
because people project who they think you should be
That's
or
right.
what they have in their mind,
But they need to get validated, right?
Exactly. And
Mhm.
I got to the point that I hated to hear my own name. People would
Mhm.
say to me, "Oh, you're Jane Bond. You can do this, you can do that." At first, it was funny.
Yeah, yeah.
In the end, it was disgusting. I couldn't
Mm.
even stand it. And I remember saying to people, don't even say that. Don't say that to me. Jane
Wow.
Bond, you're Jane Bond. You can do this, the name. And I just thought, wow, I don't even want to hear my own name.
Wow.
Something's really wrong with this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it is a strong name. I get it.
It's a great name. I mean, everyone thinks so, right? It is a great.
Yeah, I've used it, of course, and I know the power of it, especially, I'm almost 6 feet tall. I mean, I had giant hair at one time. Now I've straightened it out. I mean, but that name still carries weight with what I do because it's easy. People remember it very
Right.
well. And they associate it with James Bond, and
Of
all of that.
course.
And I get
I did. I definitely
Yeah.
did for sure.
And that's the first thing. Those are the first, thoughts in people's mind. But then, when people meet you, there's an expectation also that's put on you. That's
Mhm.
kind of heavy.
Yeah.
So, as a female, at that point, as a single female, that was awesome. Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. Jane
Yeah,
Bond.
that's right. I
That's who's
am
coming in
tough
the
and
room.
I am it. I am
Yes,
the shit.
that's who's coming in the room. Juiciness. You are
Yeah.
going to get that person. But now, she's a little more pulled back and realize and understand the power of utilizing that in the right manner. And it's
Lovely.
not about monetary, it's about servitude, it's about being my authentic self and giving
Nice.
back to the world, which I believe I've done most of my life. But this time it's being done correctly, you know. And I've never chased the money. That
Mm.
is the one good thing about me. I've never chased the money.
Mhm.
People have used me to chase the money, and I understood that too. I understand the
Right.
power of that.
Right.
But I know where the fire lies, and it's under my belly. That's
Yes.
the ambition I have to give life and light to my voice now, as opposed to giving light and life to the chase of success and money. Because
That's
money
beautiful.
always comes. It always comes. If you're chasing it, it never shows up, you know. But doing the right thing, being your authentic self, and that goes
Right.
along
Right.
in business and
Yep.
relationships, with your children.
Mhm.
People see through the bullshit,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, if
know?
you're open to that, if you're open to the abundance and, it depends on what you believe, right? If you're
Right.
always chasing, right, you never catch it, right?
No, you never catch it because it always runs. It's like the Joneses.
Yeah,
You can't keep up with the
that's right.
Joneses. That's
Never
what my
can
mom
keep up.
used to say. Don't try to keep up with them because they're going to always outdo you. You
Right.
know, Eh, the crazy part is the mindset shifts. Like, what was your mindset shift? What was the crucial point for you?
Oh, there's been so many. Like you talked about, I was fortunate enough, I guess, when I was 21 years old, I called my mother up and, I found a therapist. I had been date raped in college and I was going through therapy and they said, this isn't your fault. And we got through that. And she started asking me about my family of origin. And I told her how my father had left and how horrible he was. And she helped me see the picture differently, right? It was my mother that alienated us. And so I called her up at 21 and I said, Mom, you alienated us from dad and you made me feel unlovable and that he didn't love us and you told us he didn't love us and then your husband he did these things to me and I've been suffering and it's been horrible and I just told her everything and her response was, this is her exact what she said, I know you needed to vent, dear. I'm glad you had a chance to do so. And that was it.
Wow.
She wasn't going to take any responsibility for my conditioning, which of course is mine to take. But I recognized at that point, if I'm going to unpack this, I mean, I'm 21. I went a long way before I hit the low point. So I didn't, but it was a moment, right? When I realized that no one else nothing out
Thank
there
you.
is going to save you,
Mhm.
right? No matter how successful you are, because I went on to be very successful. And same truth, nothing out there is going to save you.
I'm
It's
so
paying
sorry that
attention.
happened to you
Oh,
in college. That's a horrible thing to happen to a young woman. I mean,
it happens to a lot of people, right?
oh,
And
trust me, I know.
yeah,
And
and
yeah,
but it led me to that therapist who really opened my eyes about my beliefs and so until we go inside and question those stories that we took on so young to survive, you know, that's what's going to save you. That's what's going to help you find your clarity. and peace and
Yeah.
happiness. So,
Well, that was a crucial part, the mindset shift for you, I'm sure,
mhm.
to your success. I mean, at 21, to confront your mother and ask about these foundational horrors,
Yeah,
which you carry along, as you grow,
yeah,
that has a lot to do with personal growth also, because this is
oh
still
yeah,
hindering you and in your mind, and you're like, wow, why are these things happen? Why does this come up all the time? Because we do have our patterns. And
yeah.
that's
These
what
are the
I loved
things
about.
we're reinforcing them. So even from that point, when I was applying to architecture to be in an architecture school, I thought my life will be over if I don't get this. I'll be such a loser and whatever. All of the pushing of my success was to appease that don't be a loser, getting that validate, all of it, all of it.
Mhm.
And I'm happy to be where I am, but it's a journey I wouldn't recommend for anyone. So if you can unpack that sooner and find that success for clarity and for peace and for others, it's not a happy journey to take. It
No,
isn't.
no. But
And
you're on fire with it. I mean,
oh,
coming from where you just stated, and
mm-hmm,
that I didn't know anything about, getting date raped. I mean,
yeah,
raped in school. I mean, that's a heavy burden to carry throughout your life.
yeah,
And then being able to meet someone and marry them and have your own kids.
yeah,
It, I mean, I look at television sometimes and I see these shows, like a Law and Order, and you see these special victims, and it's
right,
over and over and over again. And I say to myself, how could, if something like that happened to me, could I have gotten through that? I don't know. I can't say yes because it didn't happen. But
mm-hmm,
you're a pure example of something horrific happening to
yeah,
you at a very young age. And then, having to confront your mother about this, and she's just saying to you, basically, get over it. You
yeah,
vented,
or yeah,
and you
I'm
need to
glad
move
you need.
on. You need to move
Yeah, I've come a long way, baby, and which is why, which is why,
on. I
which
love
is
that.
why, in my early 40s, I knew that I had to try to get this message out, right? Because there's 80%, 50% of us are adult children of divorce. 80% of children deal with trauma, divorce, and worse,
And
right?
abuse.
And
Mhm.
abuse, right? And so there is so much of this happening. It's how the mind works. It works the same way for everyone. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? To
Kudos
tell
to you.
people my story and you know what? There's a quicker path. If you start to pay attention, if you start to question those things, because most of them are misguided and disruptive, untrue. Start
Mhm.
to recognize them when they come up, and let them go and stop and just let them be, stop resisting them, open up that space. This is per love, right? Pledge, evaluate, recognize, locate that space, open your heart, invest in what you find there because every single
Exactly.
thing in your world is showing you what you
Absolutely.
need to set yourself free and then expand
I
beyond your
love
conditioned
that.
limits. Yeah,
I
thank
love
you.
that.
Oh,
That
thank
that's
you.
so true. That's so true. And I take my hat off to you because you've come through the fire. Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
And you still have that drive, and you still want to serve. I
Yeah,
think people like yourself, and I'm going to include myself in there. We live a
of
life
course.
of servitude to help people,
That's
to
right.
help them and share the experience and the wisdom that we have. Like I'm not in for the first quarter. I'm in halftime. Matter of
Yeah,
fact,
yeah.
we'll
No,
pass
me too. Me
halftime.
too.
And
Okay.
it's okay. It's
Oh, it
okay.
is. It
Yeah,
is.
it's okay. You
It
know,
is.
how do you make tough decisions, you know, that align with your personal values today?
If there's anything that I'm struggling with,
And
I
your
know it.
long-term goals. Let me put that part in there. How
What
do
am,
you, and your long-term goals, that's the
oh,
second part.
to be honest, for the longest time, even pushing these practices was ego driven, as I said, right? And so then you get to this point where the ego collapses and you're looking at it's really a trust. It's really a trust to just be. There's a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought. There's this wisdom you can tap into when you stop thinking and just be and you serve the present moment and trust I mean, everything that has shown up in my life, Jane, it's been incredible, thing after thing after thing after thing. And it
Wow.
still continues to happen today. The other day I was kind of lost. Okay, like now that the ego is kind of collapsed, what am I doing? There's that when that push is gone that you've had all of those years,
I
you're like,
know.
okay. And I'm looking, there's a book on the table. It's called Emptiness Dancing by Adyashanti. He's an American spiritual teacher. And something told me to open the book. It's just like I'm like, okay, I'll open the book. I open
Okay,
the book, and
right?
there's a bookmark there, and on the page it says, "Hey, this is normal, right? You're just kind of like when you get out of when things that used to be fun when you were a child, maybe when you become an adolescent, they're not fun anymore, but you're not yet an adult. So just trust. You know, I'm at this point right now
Process.
in my life where I trust what shows up, and I practice non-resistance to what is, and serve the present moment, and let my higher intelligence, that part of me that is connected to, this universal strength and compassion.
I'm
Guide me.
getting there, I'm
Yeah.
getting there.
And I'm getting there too. It's not like I'm like, okay, I'm it, here it is. But yeah, it's a journey. It's always a journey, and I
And we have to
recommend it.
trust the process.
You do. That's
We have
right.
to trust the process, taking
Right.
the first steps, on this journey is not easy, and when I lost myself, I couldn't believe it. I
Hmm.
was like, you
Right. Jane Bond.
yeah,
Jane Bond.
that part. How, Jane? You don't know who you are anymore? You've done so many things in your life, and it's not like you were chasing, the success so hard, because during the journey, there's so many people you have helped along the way, and they have
Mhm.
given you testimonials about that. So why do you feel so empty?
Right.
Why do you feel like you're not full enough,
Right. That's that wanting,
what
that
can you
needing.
do to and then self-love, the
Hmm.
self-love part. I
People don't even
started
know how to do that, how to practice self love, what it even looks like, compassion.
Yeah, I had to like change everything. Trust me. I had to go into like exercise mode to build my body, to build my strength, which strengthened my mind, which gave me the opportunity to say, I can do this. It's
Right.
time to go. It's
Nice.
time to unpack. And unfortunately, you're unpacking where you're going to tear the house down. And so many people are going to be involved in this. But for your sanity,
Hmm.
you have no other choice.
Right.
And you got to go.
Yeah. Let it
So
go.
you go,
Let
you
go of your
fight everything.
when you push that comfort zone, right? It's about pushing yourself out of that comfort zone and being willing to be vulnerable and to let it go. Like you said, and like
Absolutely.
you did, to see what's there, because there's something there that's worth letting go of everything you're holding on to.
Oh, I love it when you say, you know, the prescription that
Hmm.
society puts out there for us, the
Hmm.
nice house, the nice cars, the inviting of the people over to your house that
Of
really probably
course,
don't even
pets
like
and
you probably. You ever
yeah,
have that? They don't even like you, but they want to show up because you give great
of
parties.
course, of
Um,
course. And
because
here's like two
Holly looks
examples
good.
right here. Yeah.
Absolutely, because
Mhm.
Holly's beautiful, her husband's handsome, the kids are gorgeous, they have nice cars. We want to be at that party.
That's
We don't
right.
know, because most people have ulterior motives
Of
when it comes
course.
to
It's
success.
always, again, to feed that wanting, to be seen somewhere, to be
Right.
validated, to be invited. Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part for us because we're not paying attention.
No, we're all on autopilot. It's on when you are doing that, when you can check. The body keeps score, right? So if you're doing something to appease some anxiety or, to not feel bad about yourself, then those are stories and habits and patterns that you're only feeding by doing this, right?
You're so correct when you say the body keeps check,
Hmm.
because I found myself getting sick and didn't
That's right.
understand why.
That's
I had
right.
a pain on my left side, then the pain on my no, I had a pain on my right side, then a pain on my left side in the back in my back, and then I couldn't sleep at night. I was waking up 3 and 4 in the morning. I was waking up at
Excuse me.
Bless you,
Thank
Holly.
you.
Putting on my gym clothes, sitting on the couch, waiting for the gym to open because I just needed that something to keep me going. I
Right.
would go in 2 hours, box for, 30 minutes, crazy woman. But I
Wow.
just needed sanity. I needed something that was structured, something that kept me going because everything else was going awry. And, all I could think of is, girl, you're a cat. You're being backed up into the wall, arch your back, and get the hell out of here. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. I scratched and clawed my way out because I didn't know any other way.
Yeah.
And I think when people hear this podcast, when they really get to know me and my guests, they're going to understand because women, we align ourselves. Women that collaborate without ego,
Right.
they find each other
They
and
do.
they want to continue to collaborate because we think we are on to something and we want our voices to be heard. And I think when you find that tribe, so to speak,
Hmm.
you hold on to it tight
Hmm.
and you just want to hear the voices of truth and people that are going to give it to you, you know, the truth. They're not going to just validate you. They're going to give you the
Right.
truth of who you are. That's
Yeah.
what family does. They don't pull any punches. They'll say all kinds of shit to you. And you're like, oh, wow, well, lucky your family because this wouldn't happen in the real world. But it does happen in the real world, you know. So I find this very interesting, the mindfulness architect. I think you have dismantled the bullshit
Thank
and
you.
built the real world. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you on the show
Oh,
here.
thank you. And thank you, Jane. It's been lovely discussing all this with you because you're right. There's, and if you're listening and this it resonates with you, there's a reason that you're listening. Right.
Absolutely. And you hit it right on the mark. Your body keeps a check.
Yeah.
It keeps a checklist of what's happening with you. You
Right.
know, when you're sad, everything around you,
Yeah.
you can't do anything. You're like limp, you
Yeah.
know? So
People are getting sick all over. You have to look at what's going on in the world, right? The body's like, reacting to that emotional stress and fear, right? It's the time to go inward and practice compassion and awareness. And anyway,
I
it's,
love that energy. I love your energy that you're giving out to the world. And believe me, it's going to be received so well.
thank you.
I received it. Once I read, I was like, wow, I cannot wait to have this conversation with her because she
Thank you.
seems like you seem very grounded, and I know what it takes to be in the realm with all men,
Hmm.
dealing with them with their egos because
Oh
they do
man.
have egos. Oh my God, their egos are worse than anybody's. And then when you find a strong, suited woman that can go up against that, it's like now it's on, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And we're not going to back down because we have that kind of masculine, attitude also because that's what it took for us to get there.
Right. Yeah. I found when I spoke, they listened, right? But when they didn't know who I was, there was judgment and whatever. But
There will
you know,
always be judgment,
there will
and that was
always be.
on
Well,
both sides.
unfortunately, judgment is at the core of everything. If everyone just stopped judging, the world would be a much nicer, better place. If we just started
Judging and
observing,
labeling. I think judging
yeah,
and labeling.
judging and comparing, and
Oh God,
you know,
yeah. Before you leave, I want you to talk about your 21-day challenge
challenge.
that
Oh,
you have.
thank you, Jane, for
I
bringing
am
that
going to
up.
join it. I said I wanted to talk to you first, and then I'm going to sign up because I
Oh,
thought
good, good.
these daily practices will be powerful for me. You
So the
know,
challenge is the first practice of Per Love, pledge, where we pledge to make the habit of watching the mind. Because if you're not paying attention, if you're not awakening your inner observer, then it's all on automatic pilot. But it's 21 days. Every day you get a short video. And throughout the 21 days, it's a digestible 3 to 4 to 6 minute video. And it's
mhm,
about the practices, it's about the whole journey, from stuck and isolated to as far as you want to go. And then the practice every day is 1 minute, 6 times a day.
I love
Because
it. Love
we
it.
don't have a lot of time, and
Ugh,
meditation is of course important. But if you stop 1 minute, 6 times a day without judgment and with curiosity, and just pay attention, right? If you do this over and over again, it will start to happen automatically. And it will become second nature that you will see the thoughts rather than being the thoughts. You will see them as they come up so that you can respond with wisdom. And
I
then every
love
day you get a 1 minute meditation. And so even if people think, oh my God, 21 days, too long, just sign up because you can just watch the videos, right? Listen to the meditation and you'll just, it's a very small commitment for 21 days to see the whole process. So yes, I'd love it. I'd love to see you sign up and to tell me what you
Oh,
thought after it.
trust me, I was going to sign up. I said, but I'm going to wait because I looked at it and I read through it and I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I please tell everybody how to find you and to find where to, sign up for the 21-day challenge.
Thank you. So it's hollymcneil.com, two L's. So HOLLYMCNEILL.com. If you go there, you'll see the 21-day challenge up in the corner. I'm also doing a new video in the next week or so that will show a video of it. Or you can go to hollymcneil.com/21-day challenge. It'll take you right to the sign up.
Oh,
So,
fantastic. Where can
yeah.
they find you on social media?
Social media, Holly McNeill Official, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of those places. I started my own podcast. So tell you what, you do the 21-day challenge. You come on my
100%.
podcast, pay attention. I would love that. You can come on, we can talk about it. And yeah, I'd love that.
I can't wait. I saw it last night and I was like, I should have done this already. And then I thought, no, I want to talk to her first. So
Yeah,
definitely.
great.
Holly, it was so great having you on the show. I love meeting women like yourself,
Thank
strong
you.
women that have unpacked and realized that their journey is so much greater than where they were initially,
Yeah.
like myself. And
Hmm.
I just want you to give the audience a couple really good takeaways because I think this whole dismantling and you
Hmm.
being an architect prior to it is
Right.
powerful
Yeah,
because people
yeah.
have
There are a
fear.
few steps, right? There's a few key components, the foundation, right? And the
Okay.
first thing is, if there's anything you want to really know and to believe and to make part of your life, listen to it over and over and over and over again. There's a couple podcasts that I was given that I came across, one in 10 years into my journey by John Kabat-Zinn. I listened to it because I listened to it over and over. It's 25 times. If you listen to it once, the patterns, your mind will resist change.
Hmm.
So if you listen to it like that sounds great and you don't do anything else, the old patterns will take over and it will be lost. 3 times to remember it, 8 times to kind of really bring it in, and 21 days to make a habit. So anything, if this spoke to you, listen to it because you're creating new neural pathways and they have to be strong enough to last. They have to be strong enough to be taken on as new beliefs, right? So anything, if you hear something, and that's why you do your 1 minute meditation over and over and over. The subconscious mind is habit based. So
Absolutely.
anything you want, like, Jane, when you're unpacking your life, it's like, I'm sure there's things that you looked at and you looked at them over and over and over again.
A
And
hundred and
believe,
fifty times.
yeah, exactly. And that is how the mind works. It's
That's
simple as
right.
that. Anything you want will become part of your life if you practice it over and over and over. And then, second, you know, you don't have to know how to get unstuck. You just have to believe that you can trust your intuition and be aware and awake and ready for what shows up.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Oh, guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Unpack Your Life. And having Holly on today was amazing. Her skill set, along with you taking the 21-day challenge, and myself, because I will be doing that. And
Yeah.
hopefully, I'll be on Holly's podcast.
Yes, you're absolutely.
And I
Pay
think it's
attention.
exciting. I am so into, finding new ways to just de-stress myself. And I realized that, creating a habit
Hmm.
is very difficult. Breaking a habit is very easy. So we only want to create great habits here,
That's right.
especially
That's
on
right.
unpacking our lives.
There you go. And you're doing it, Jane. Thank you so much for
Oh,
having
thank
me.
you. And guys, remember, don't wait to unpack and implode. Unpack frequently because it helps.
Right.
We'll talk to you guys again. You know where to find us on all your platforms, Spotify, podcasts, and we're there. We're looking forward to seeing you and hearing from you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Holly,
you.
let's talk again.
All right. Cheers, my dear.
All right, Holly. I'm going to stop this.